Welcome to Ageless Wisdom with a Z, our new series of 30-minute interviews featuring experts who challenge the status quo in aging, health and well-being, and resilience. My name is Pearl Peng, co-host of this episode, joining in from Florida.
Hello, my dear friend. I'm Pat Alva-Kraker, co-host, joining you from Fort Worth, Texas. Our expert today is Puja Shah, who is joining us from Dunstable, Bedfordshire, UK. Puja is a healer, specializing in uncovering and removing the root causes of chronic illness, accelerated aging, and unresolved symptom patterns. Her specialty includes modalities such as an emotional freedom technique, Ho'oponopono, Silva Method, emotional code, and energy medicine. Her work bridges conventional diagnostics with functional and energy medicine. Welcome, Puja, to Ageless Wisdom. Pearl and I are excited to share and learn more about you and your body of work.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. And that was such a lovely, kind introduction. Yeah, I would love to start this today's interview with a intention. The intention that I would like to set is, everybody who is listening to this, either live or later on, or even in the future, I would like them to walk away with one belief, which is finding their own truth, and it's possible. That's my intention, that they find one truth that they were looking for such a long time. That's my intention for them.
I love that. Pearl and I are definitely live through intention and set intentions for all the work that we do. So we're totally in alignment. Thank
Yeah.
you. So I want to start with this one question. What led you to the body of work that you're in now?
Sure. That's such a great question. I have always been I've always been amazed and passionate about how healing works. And I was so much into the preventive side of it, so much that I studied nutrition with the intention of making sure that, how can somebody just stay well and never fall ill? That was my aim. Like when I used to work in hospitals and I saw people who are suffering with chronic diseases and illness and going through a lot of, trauma because of that. That was hard. I could not see that because I'm an empath and I could feel their pain. And I was like, what can we do to prevent this? I have also worked in the corporates where, we used to work and look at people who are in the corporate and say, how can we prevent? So fast forward to my own problems, my own issues. When I came to UK, I was diagnosed with PCOS, PMDD, depression, insomnia, and everything that I knew at that point. It only worked to a certain extent. And this is where I started my hunt. And I found energy medicine, launched the work, and was invited by Best Healing Solutions to be part of a team. So that's how I came to energy medicine, because
I
of
love
my
your background in health and wellness and corporate. And then it does, it's amazing. And Pearl and I talk about this, how when we have a significant emotional event, whether it's physical, mental, it acts as a catalyst
yeah, yeah.
to a body of work because we use what we know to make a difference. And that's what I'm hearing from you is that you took everything you have, all your knowledge, all your experience, all that dis-ease that you went through and put it together and said, I'm going to help women and I'm going to help people and I'm focused on.
So I hear you loud and clear, Puja. And Pat and I totally agree with that approach.
Yeah.
You specialize in uncovering the root causes of chronic illness. Many are just really very much addressing the symptoms these days, unfortunately. So based on your experience, what are the top 3 causes of these chronic ailments?
Yeah, we categorize them into exactly 3. So the first is toxins. Second, pathogen load. We also call it biological load. So bacteria infection. And the third is trauma.
Mm.
Now, if we put a finger to which one is the most prominent, there is no such thing because they are all interwoven. It just goes together. There is a toxin and trauma together, probably a bacteria too. So it's all interrelated. It's the matter of finding what we need to find based on what relevant for the person or the symptom. Each individual has a different expertise, and I always believe in working in collaboration. So whoever brings whatever expertise, the way we see this is very comprehensive. So we see this as we are not just toxins, we're not just pathogens, but it's also trauma, right? So if somebody is having headache or even the back pain, and I'm not talking about the one which is like one-off or after work, I'm talking about the one which is chronic. So 15 years of migraines, right? 15 years of back pain, 15 years, 20 years of issues with detoxification. So this is what we are talking about. And this is where we really look into what started this. Why are they the perfect, why is their body the perfect environment for this type of disease? And what is it that is keeping them in this disease state today? It's two different things. What started it could be something different. It could be trauma at work. It could be some sort of accidents, divorce, something you saw, some sort of abuse abuse word, it could be something like that. And what's keeping that going today, the disease, could be something different, like a food sensitivity or the environmental toxins. So this is where I use muscle testing to find out what's blocking their health and their condition from healing, because the body is made to heal itself. If it is not healing, there are blocks, which is what we call like this sort of toxins, pathogens, trauma.
I love the perspective in that there's two pieces to the healing journey, right? And so what is it that first started it and what is it and keep it in place? Well, that right there is an aha for me, because we don't look at our healing process in that way, right, Pearl?
Many times it's really in that diving in the asking of the question.
Yeah.
And sometimes it started even way before the divorce. Yeah. Because what led to a divorce? It never ever happened like right away. They probably had been something else also hidden behind the divorce that could have caused the relationship to start to deteriorate. Something else.
Yeah. That something else could go back to childhood trauma, just to pinpoint.
Yeah, it could be. Very much so.
Yes. And so many times it does go back to childhood trauma, and worth looking at.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, based on what you just shared about the three top causes, which is the toxins, the biological, and the trauma, what proactive actions can our listeners do based on what you just shared with us?
Yeah. The first place that I would start for proactive, for preventive side of the things is foods. That's the number one thing. My favorite, being a nutritionist, but also because that is something that we consume every single day. It's the most common thing and the most easiest thing, I would say, to look at, and the most important at the same time. So in order to prevent certain things, I would look at if there are any hidden food sensitivities that I might have, which is contributing to the symptoms. That is the first thing that I would look at. The way I do this is using muscle testing. And I would just test, wheat, if wheat is good for somebody or not. We would test 8 major food categories: wheat, dairy, corn, soy, citrus, nuts, nitrates. So that's how we test. We even test for water. Oftentimes we think that I'm drinking a lot of water, but your water might not be the right one for you. There could be pesticides, etc., etc. We know the grill. So we want to test every single thing that the person is having. And there are mainly 2 or 3 major food stressors that we usually test for people. And that has changed so much for so many people in terms of their healing journey.
When you talk about food sensitivities, sometimes we're not aware that we're having a reaction to a food, right? So how do they show up in our body if we have a food sensitivity?
The first thing that I would like to talk about, and this could be a little bit off subject, but it's relevant, is when we are eating, we want to make sure that we are eating in the environment which is calm. And it's because, the food that goes into our mouth and the conditions in which it goes into our mouth affects a lot on a biological, clinical level, which we are not aware of. And food trauma is something that we look at, but we can get into that later. But the first thing that I would look at is if we are sensitive to something, I have seen that it will not come up on the blood works because this might be very much subclinical. It's not detectable yet. When we test, it is so much easier. Like I test foods, I test supplements, I test for water, beverages, even, the types of milk, the types of wheat, we can go through options. But the first thing that a person who does not know how to muscle test and might be listening to this and want to know if there is any is when you eat something, do you feel different before and after? That is the first that I would like and invite you guys to look at. I think that's the number one thing. Do you feel different? Do you feel the same? Do you feel worse, or do you feel better? That will tell you a lot of things.
The food intake obviously is a huge category.
Yeah.
So I would imagine you would invite your patients to do a food diary before you can even do any testing per se, because it does require some period of intake of not only what they had eaten, also when they eaten, and how much they eaten that.
It is interesting you say that because that's exactly what I used to do when I was a nutritionist. And it took me a long time to find out, what's blocking their healing. Because back in the day, what I used to do was I made them have a food diary. We would deduct a certain foods, like say wheat for now, and we go on for 3 months. Then we do their blood test, and then we see if there is any difference. If there is, then wheat was a stressor. Right now, what I do is like usually my first session is I will test them for all the foods. So it's like maybe a list of 100 or 150 foods all at once. And in muscle testing, just one session, we could say and tell all the foods that's blocking them. So it's that quick. So yeah, that is something that I was surprised myself when I learned that. I was like, oh, wow, this is so quick. It would save somebody 6 months just testing 2 foods. So yeah, I like that. But to start with, it's a very good idea, I guess.
Gotcha. One of the concerns that we've heard from our women community is that some health issues that are such as cancers or high blood pressure can be inherited in their genes. So they feel vulnerable and at higher risk of getting those diseases. Sure. Can you address this concern? In other words, how would you recommend women approach those health concerns on those diseases that run in the family?
I view this in 2 different ways. First, there is already a predisposition of having a certain diseases because it runs in the family, like the family history. Second, our ancestors were not exposed to the stressors, the kind of stresses that we are exposed to. So even if there is no history, you would still prevent it. The way we look at this is, we call this a miasm scan. and we would just run a scan. If somebody is like in my family, we have a history of blood pressure and diabetes. My father doesn't have it, but my grandfather had it, and all of my father's brothers and sisters, they have it, diabetes and blood pressure. My father doesn't. So if I test him, which I was curious, and I did test him, and because I was concerned for my own self, is if I test, is he born with that frequency which causes diabetes? Yes or no? So once again, I am testing, right? Are we born with this? On a scale of 1 to 10, how vulnerable am I right now? That will make me, acquire this disease at some stage of my life, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, or maybe even 2 years down the line. And what is causing that? So the goal is to slow that down. Is there some foods that I'm eating which my body doesn't like? Because those foods also carry the frequency of that disease. Is there any other environmental toxins, like we test personal care products, etc., etc., all the toxins in the environment, things we inhale, things we breathe within our house? Is there like a trauma involved, right? So once again, we are looking at, this is like the analogy of what loaded the gun and what pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
So this is how we look at, okay, if we are loaded with the gun, the goal is how long can we go on without pulling the trigger? That's the goal, if there is a miasm. So what can we do to prevent? And this is how we would look at, like, what foods are causing this? Is there a trauma? There is also a piece of forgiveness. There is a lot of things involved based on, I have seen people who are born with the predisposition, or where each person in the family cannot detoxify well. Each person in the family have this lineage of where they have financial struggles, relationship issues, they run in the family, it just replicates. Mom, grandma, daughter, granddaughter, it just replicates. So this is what we do. Like, we address it using a miasm scan.
It's an onion.
Yeah.
What you're saying is an onion that needs to be unpeeled, every layer, whether it's emotional, past, environments that they lived in versus the environments that we now lived in. And I love that you use technology to help you uncover the causes. I'm sure that because of the technology, you're able to do that for your clients at a much faster rate.
Yeah, like the muscle testing. Yeah.
And it actually sheds light in this hidden or unknown risk, right? Our women listeners who will be worried about, now we have a way to start to peel the onions, like Pat said, right? To get the layers exposed and start to examine what they are actually possible. What's possible, instead of not knowing and just carrying that anxiety. And not even probably conscious. They probably aren't even conscious about those anxiety until somebody started to talk about it.
I think if I may add, there is one thing that I wanted to add, like, say, for example, cancer, right? The miasm frequency, which might be running in the family, we call like carcinosin. That's cosmic frequency. So that is something that we would test. But before that, I think the thought itself that, my grandma or father or mother, if somebody in the family had that, what if I have this? I don't want this. So that anxiety itself sometimes could be a trigger. So I would be careful with that. That does not mean that we do not think about it. We don't do anything about it, but constantly worrying about it, it's what's attracting that. I would say that. So that is a kind of a stressor itself.
Absolutely.
So something about it, not worry about it. If that makes
So this is how you could then start to share with them and communicate with them. So it's not something that's harbored inside that they couldn't really get out of.
Yeah, they can. I think I would like to share at this point for everybody who might be going through similar thoughts. It could not be like a generational diseases or, but in general about the health. I would like to share the trauma code with our audience, and that has been helpful if you think you are that kind of person, because we know at some stage we all are. We worry about our health. And I would just show you the trauma code. This is what it looks like. I can share a copy below later. I don't know if you can look. So it says E, I, F, L, F, S, H, E, B, E, M, F, S, H, I, F, O, E, A, C. I would just run my finger or my hand over this trauma code. Every time we feel that anxiety that's popping up, and this has been very helpful. I'm happy to share this. We can share this in the description below.
We will definitely make it available to our listeners. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah.
And I love the fact that all you have to do is run your hand over that code,
Yeah.
and it becomes effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Because your body knows. I think the first thing that I want to do is just clear that anxiety. Anything else to work. Yeah.
I love that. You first have to clear the anxiety that we're carrying with us, and sometimes it's subconscious.
Yeah, it is very much subconscious. Sometimes it is obvious because of work and other things, but sometimes it's very much subconscious. We think that we are relaxed, but we are not.
Awareness is always the first step, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is awareness. And once you become aware, then like you say, you can start taking action. And I'm an example of that. I have cancer in my family and a long history of cancer. And I can probably go back and be able to say how long I've carried that anxiety of, I wonder if I'm going to get breast cancer because of all the siblings on my mother's family that had breast cancer. And yeah, and I ended up having breast cancer. So looking back, if you had been there in my life back then.
Yeah.
Hey, better late than never.
She's in my life now.
Yeah. See, that's a lovely question, but thank you so much for bringing that up, because in situations like this, I do get asked, for how many generations did I have had that? So we would just go ahead and test. So more than one, more than two, more than three, and we would just test like how many generations, how far back. So, yeah.
Oh, that would be fascinating to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what's most interesting is at this point, when we clear this from us, we also clear this from our offsprings. So
wow.
Pattern breaker. So we have to kind of break that pattern. This in this day and life, everybody who is doing this preventive medicine and doing stuff to take care of themselves, staying healthy, I think this is what we are doing. We are stopping it from passing it on. That's one of my intentions too.
Wonderful. I'm glad that you pointed that out.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that in itself right there, I'm sure caught a lot of women's attention, like, oh my God, we can stop that cycle. And I'm sure it can be done easily, right? So, you live in Dunstable, UK, and I'm sure that we have a lot of women that you have caught their attention, and they're like, I want to know more about that. So how do women work with you when they're here and you're across the pond?
Oh, again, no, that's such a lovely question. And I get that asked every single day. I work remotely over the phone with all my clients. The way this works is by tapping into their field with their permission. All I have is their picture and a history about their health. And I do remote muscle testing where I am using my field as a surrogate to test the person that I am working with. And this is how we find the root cause using muscle testing. Now, if you might see me touching different points on my body. So I am once again, using myself as a surrogate. So I might be saying, okay, my thyroid, but I'm actually testing Paul's thyroid. So, but I'm using myself as a surrogate because we are all connected. And this is how we find out what's going on. So we work over the phone remotely, and I work with people across the globe.
Fascinating.
So fascinating. Wow.
Thank you.
Puja, what is your take on, because there's just so much, and people might not be familiar with what you do. What would you say to them so that they would totally be open and ready to work with you?
Yeah, the way I see this is, we operate from our conscious self, which is only 5%, and the subconscious is 95%. Subconscious has all the answers that we need, including the answers for our health. The question remains, how do we access subconscious? Is there a drive folder somewhere? Probably yes. And we just click on that folder and we find out what's going on in the health issues, what's going on under the health umbrella for a person. And then we ask our body the questions because our body knows what it has been through, the trauma, the toxins that it was exposed to. It remembers every single thing. And all we need to do is find out and help our own body. Now, if one person is going through depression, could be very different compared to the other person, because what caused depression for both of them could be very different. And this is where their treatments would differ. One of them, it could be as simple as clearing the trauma. For the other person, they might need some help with neurotransmitters, like supplements to do with neurotransmitters, or they might need nutrition. How do we know the difference? Is using muscle testing. When I say things like, my name is Puja, that looks strong. But if I say my name is Pet, that's false. And your body knows, my body knows I'm not Pet. Puja.
Gotcha.
Similarly, a healthy liver or a healthy person's frequency will be very different compared to a liver who might need help.
This really connects back to your original starting intent, right? Setting the intent.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is true, because the intention is to find out what started cancer, what's keeping cancer going, what is making them so stressful. So the intention changes with every question, and we are trying to learn the truth, because one of the things that I feel for myself personally is I want to live my life by truth rather than not knowing, or rather than knowing false things. And this is something that helps me know the truth of the matter, the truth with the capital T. The truth is the truth. It never changes. It can never be.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been so insightful, right, Pearl?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us, Puja, and sharing your wisdom and just, such eye-opening insights on how we can step in and heal ourselves and have an amazing relationship with you to uncover and peel back that onion to be able to live in optimum health. So we are so happy, ladies, for those who tuned in to listen to Puja. You can find Puja's contact information on the description of this recording, along with that trauma code that she talked about earlier. So with that, Pearl, would you like to say anything else as we call this a day?
All right, wonderful. Once again, thank you so much, Puja. And tune in next time on October 22nd for our next episode. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your day.